All right, all right, all right. Good evening. Good evening. Stop this. Good evening, everybody. I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Fantastic. We got a special guest tonight. Ryan with Shin Sengoku. Looking forward to it. I will say I am never early to projects, but I got into the Shin Discord about 300 people in. I don't know what Twitter did, but just threw it on my timeline, and wouldn't you know it, turns out to be an incredible project. If you guys don't know how bullish I am on remnants, Shin Sengoku is right in that category. Doing really cool things. If you guys haven't seen the project, I'd recommend you go to Magic Eden right now. Go ahead and check it out. But we are going to go ahead and pull Ryan in here in 1 second. Let's go ahead. Ryan.
Hello.
How you doing, man? God,
doing pretty good.
Dude, it's nice to hear another good mic in stream, man. You got an excellent. What do you got right there?
I don't know. It's something I picked up on Amazon, but I did a lot of podcasting and things in my past. So I had like a YouTube channel that has like 300,000 subscribers, and so I used this for that channel.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. I remember seeing your stream with Shake, and you talked about how you had it. Is it ramen?
He had like a ramen channel. Well, I had like my other business was like a music education business. That one had around 500,000 subscribers, and then the ramen one had around 300,000. Then I just dropped it to work on Shin Sengoku. So I actually have someone coming in, one of the best ramen chefs in the country, come in to kind of help me with content for that now. So I'm trying to get him on board and do things for that.
Man, I didn't know you're big time on 2 channels. Right. Bow down to your greatness. Jeez.
I am old, so I've been doing things on the internet for a long time. So
yeah, you could have fooled me, man. But wait, you put the hat on and you put it backwards, so we can't see your cool hat, man.
No. It's just like
it's a different hat.
I get like free hats from like companies and stuff for like the various businesses that I've done. So it's like I just found a free hat that was lying around and put it on. So.
I love it,
this Velcro thing. It's not literally one of those cheapy ones.
Well, hey, I appreciate your time. I know you got kids. You're working on a project simultaneously. You obviously have 2 successful YouTube channels on the side. That's amazing. Have you like? I'm trying to think. 300,000 people. Like, have you ever met Uncle Roger or anything like that? Because I watch Uncle Roger videos all the time, dude.
I helped
He's
him
hilarious.
with his Jamie Oliver video. So if you look at the Jamie Oliver video,
Jamie Olive Oil.
How do I could share a screenshot.
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah. If you go ahead and share your screen.
It was on my other computer. But if you look at the Jamie Oliver video where he's like trashing Jamie Oliver's ramen video, like I actually had like a Zoom call with him, and I kind of like walked him through like, okay, yeah, this is where he's fucking up. This is what he's doing wrong. And so if you look at the description, it'll say like, oh yeah, shout out to Way of Ramen for helping me with the video.
Dude, Ryan, I'm star blushing now, dude.
He's a really cool guy. He's a really it's kind of funny because he blew up kind of like really quickly out of nowhere, and he was doing fried rice things for a while. Then he started critiquing ramen, but he's like, so when we got onto the call with him, he was like, I'm a lot better at fried rice than ramen. It's like, don't worry, bro, I got you covered. So I kind of helped him walk through, and so like actually hooked him up. He did he's in the UK, so he did like he said like when I hit 2 million subscribers, I'll cook ramen for the first time. And ramen is like incredibly hard to cook, so I hooked them up with my friend at Matsudai Ramen. They're in Wales, so I think he drove.
I've seen the episode. I've seen the episode. That's amazing.
James is my good friend from the ramen world, and so it's kind of funny because bring it full circle. Like some people in the Shin Sengoku Discord is like, dude, you have like all these connections. You should try to do some ramen utility. It's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. So we're gonna try to start figuring that out now.
Dude, that's amazing.
Real world utility through the prior connections, and I don't have that 500,000 subscriber one anymore. We sold that business last year, so.
Well, still, the fact that you got it there, and I don't think people understand how hard it is to really like get your YouTube channel off the ground. That you've been to that like peak 2 times on 2 separate occasions is nothing short of incredible. So, congrats to you. I guess that begs the question, like you've been there 2 times, right, on 2 separate occasions for music business, like music education, right, and then you went to ramen, and now we're with Shin Sengoku. So walk me down that path, because I love it, because myself, I have my hands in every single business I can.
Well, I'm like a first in my life was always like tech and web. Like I'm 40, so like I was on the internet in the 90s, building websites in the 90s in high school and putting those up and trying to monetize websites in the 90s. So like I had some websites that kind of took off in the 90s in high school. I was like I didn't know how to code, so I had my friends code it for me, and then I would just like figure out like how to put ads on or do things like
Right.
so my first love has always been tech and building things. So like when we started that music education business, I was also a musician and I was gigging with my friends. But in that business, I handled more of the tech side, like managing developers, managing designers. We started it with $300. So I did a lot of the early coding. I went to school to learn how to like design websites and stuff. So I was like the first website builder, but I suck at coding. So like as soon as I could get out of coding and managing other people that are better than me, I did that. So like my first love was always building things on the internet. And then the ramen thing was just like a thing I fell into right before COVID, where I was like kind of depressed. I want to take a break from tech and do something complete. Like food is like one of those things that a lot of people, when they burn out of a career, they go into food for some reason. Because I think I was lucky enough to realize this for myself. Like food and music are the two things that resonate at a human level more than anything else, right? Like they bring people together. People can appreciate food and music at the same level, no matter if you're like the richest person in the world or like the poorest person in the world. You can appreciate these things in the same way. And so I think that's why people fall into food when they get burnt out. So I kind of was depressed and burnt out. So I fell into ramen, and just like my neurotic behavior, I built that into like a YouTube channel. And so now when I discovered NFTs again of May of 2021, I was like, oh shit, I got to go back full into tech again. So
yeah, that's awesome, man. It's nice to see it go full circle where, I think web and tech and video marketing, especially, like there's just such a plethora of uses for it that you can kind of find your way into various, like, how does that interconnect? And the next thing you know, you kind of show it full circle, and it's cool, man. I love that. What piqued your interest with NFTs? Like, what was the spark that you're like, yo, this is where I'm falling back into tech?
I was just like, well, I never like fell out of tech because I was always like looking at the latest things. But I was so in Web 1, I was kind of like a dabbler, and in Web 2 was when I did most of my business things. And then I kind of like around 2014ish, like I was like, there's nothing exciting about the internet anymore. Like everything that's coming out is iterations on Web 2. And then in 2017, I was like, oh shit, this cryptocurrency thing is like the first thing since 1995 that I'm like, this is actually really interesting. The next, it could be the next, as soon as Ethereum smart contracts came out, I was like, this is like the next version of the internet. It's like a supercomputer that anybody can upload an application to, and anybody can run that application from anywhere in the world. Like that is something that wasn't possible till Ethereum smart contracts. And so like got in 2017. And then when I saw NFTs in early 2021, I was like, what the fuck is this? Why is anybody buying pictures? And then like you spend just like Gary Vee started talking about it, and I've been like following Gary Vee since like 2008. Like I have email chains with him when I used to email back and forth in 2008. But he started talking about it, and I was like, okay, and I guess if Gary's talking about it because he's been right since 2008, I should dig in a little bit deeper. And so I was like, oh fuck, that's what it is. It's like a way to authenticate digital ownership for the first time for a non-fungible good. And it's like, and you can do that composable things with that. Like composability is like something that has been always interesting to me. And so like when those two things clicked, I was like, okay, I got to think of something to do eventually. And I spent from like May to like end of last year thinking about what kind of project I want to launch. And then finally the idea, and then started building in like February, March, we started coding and stuff.
Yeah. And dude, when I found it, I was excited because look, there's so many gaming projects that come out, right? And they say, oh yeah, we're gonna have a game out. It's gonna be like AAA quality. And you kind of look, if you are gonna strive for that, I guess have something to do in the meantime while you're building that. But it's you're competing against Web 2 games, like actual AAA games. So you got to figure out a way that you're just introducing the idea to somebody, right? Like you have to break bread and just build a fun experience to a lot of people. And so many people were, hey, we're play to earn, right? You play the game, you earn. And I think play to earn, I'm actually coming out with a video later this week of how I think play to earn is kind of a meme, right? Like it is, you're not, in what world do you get to play a game and actually just like straight up earn? Like that's your living. I think so much focus is on that. I think it's more about ownership of game assets, right?
Right.
Like that's the key right there. Like, you know how much fun I had with Counter-Strike and going on like the marketplace and trading skins, and like that was awesome to me. That was such a cool experience. And I think that's the essence that we're trying to capture in gaming with NFTs. And I think you do that really well, and you got it. You're like, look, this is just a really fun, like idle PvP game that I want people to interact with. I want to build a community around it. And man, the hype was awesome. I love the community that you built.
We can get into the hype a little bit, but just like I have a couple of core theses that are probably contradictory to a lot of people building in the play to earn space, because like, first of all, like I just think that it comes down to an attention graph. Like, everybody has 24 hours in a day, and if you're going to try to compete with AAA studios that have hundreds of millions of dollars they're investing into their games, like, good luck with a raise of like $1 million or $2 million. Like, it's a really hard challenge. And so the best case scenario for a lot of people that are trying to build Web3 games is you're trying to eat into the indie game market, you know, the Steam indie game sector. But even that is like, you know, there's an established distribution channel, the TAM, the total what is it called? What's the acronym for TAM? Total addressable market size is like smaller for Web3. There's a much more friction and things. So, you know, when I talk about Shin Sengoku, it's actually like, I think a lot of people think we're like a gaming project, but we're actually like a utility project disguised as a gaming project, where we're building out these kind of like simple games that do core mechanical things that a lot of NFT projects want, such as token distribution and token syncing. And then we're going to be able to bring projects into this ecosystem of games that we're building. So it's because, and just because of like, I think about, you know, we raised maybe like 400 grand from our mint, which is like not a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money to build up a business. Like, luckily I've experienced bootstrapping, so it's not that big of a deal for me. But, you know, in terms of like development cost is high. Developers are not cheap employees. So, but it's just in terms of like, you know, I just view it as like what we're trying to build is more than just like, we're trying to build a game, like a fun game. But the fun part for me is when we start bringing in other projects into Shin Sengoku, letting other projects use these gaming features to achieve their goals, as far as like providing something engaging for their communities to do, providing a token sync mechanic for their project, for their staking service, and basically doing all of these things in addition to just building a fun game. So the fun game is one thing, and then the fun game going out and doing this composable thing where other projects can come in is the big dream for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think building a community, you guys did it the right way, right? There is no paid influencers. There's no like, hey, just like we're gonna bot our follower count, we're gonna whitelist collab and just really build like a artificial audience, which doesn't make any sense these days. We've seen how they perform when we're actually in a bear market compared to like your community is still here. There's still people screenshotting like, hey, yo, I just attacked this sorry loser, like get good noob. And it's fun. So I think a lot of people are overlooking the potential of really fostering a community a healthy way, having something that's interactable and playable, because really, I mean, it is gamified staking with like game theory behind it. And you guys actually have a PvP model where there's that, it just adds that next level of social interaction. And I think a lot of people miss out. And so I'm excited to see what you guys are building for the future. I love the event. I got to finally sit down and play it. I was gone all this past weekend, and I got to sit down. I'm like, ooh, here's some more mechanics to try to play with. I probably won't rank. I wasn't playing the past 2 days, but it's still fun, and I'm excited to kind of dive into it more. But can you talk a little bit about the event, because I know that was recent, and I want people to understand, like, just because you got there late, there is still a huge benefit to participating right now.
Right. So the event is our Gesshoku event, which is like Japanese for like the blood moon event. But it's basically just an experiment for us to see how does this product, this core PvP product, perform, you know, like in terms of like a standalone instance. And so what it is a modified version of our core PvP game. We put a lot of fixes into it over the last week. You know, like we had a really rocky launch. We launched with the game live, which was what I wanted to do, but we took the game off chain quickly because the Solana network just wasn't performing. And that set us back about a week and a half because we had to build out like this withdrawal mechanics and things. But we finally got like all of the major bug fixes in. We fixed a lot of the gameplay that people were complaining about. And so the event was like the first iteration of the game that had like the modified gameplay aspects in it. But the event basically is a way for us to show like, you know, we can tweak the game and so for people who don't know, like the game, the event is a version of the game where you're scoring points versus just like leveling up and things. And so you score a point for every troop you kill from somebody else and every token or ryo you steal from somebody else. And then we have a leaderboard, and the top prize on the leaderboard is a famous fox we bought to give away. Second prize is a transdimensional fox. Third to 10th place is like our NFTs and with some soul or our token. And then we have like token rewards all the way down to 100th place. And so, but basically, like the most interesting thing about NFTs to me, and like it's something that the reason why I built Shin Sengoku in this way is like if you want to build a project, like gaming projects are like the hardest things to build because you actually have to deliver like something that's working or try to deliver. And we made I wouldn't say mistakes, but you know, there's a lot of things that we learned during the launch where, you know, the traditional game development has historically been like waterfall development, which is where you concentrate on one thing, get that done, push it out the next thing, and that development process takes years to do. Like if you ever wait for like Witcher 3 or whatever. But we did like an agile development model, which is like you put out MVP, you see how people are using it, then you make tweaks and adjust, and that's kind of like the way that we've always designed it. And I think we go back to like the hype. The hype was like a blessing and a curse for the project. Like we spent a lot of time going into communities talking about what we're building, and people got really excited because I think people see the excitement behind composability, being able to create a game and then really unlock the true potentials of NFTs, where you're gating based upon metadata, you're providing utility based upon metadata within a game and adding attributes on top of that, basically allowing players to increase the value of their NFT through their own like working basically in the game. But when we launched, we had so many issues, and the idea was always to do the agile development and fix bugs and do things quickly. But it just there's a disconnect between like I think people that might have expected a little bit more polished product than what came out. And so it's just been a transition for us, and it's been really interesting to see because one of the big things that we ran into was people played the game in a way that we never really expected them to play, which is fascinating to see, but was also like incredibly frustrating for a lot of people because what they did was they spun up these max huge army sizes, and what happened was they got wrecked and they didn't have enough token to heal the army basically back up. And once that happened enough times, people got kind of frustrated. So the big patch that just rolled out today to the main game and has been going live in the event is like we fixed a lot of that stuff and kind of met everybody halfway to the way people were playing and the way that we intended people to play, and it's kind of like meeting them in the middle right now. So that's kind of what we're planning to do for the rest of the time is like watch how people play. You know, people have complaints and things. We're going to put things into the game to kind of make that better, and then we're going to tack towards like the kind of experience that we want to build eventually.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. No, I mean, Ryan, you're so well spoken when it comes to kind of mapping out ideas, because I think a lot of people don't get it. One, like what other game outside of Remnants that I know of was available on launch and had a PvP focus, right? Like Remnants was, you know, we're gamified staking, like straight up, or PvE, right?
Mhm.
That's essentially what we are. And then we'll kind of build out from there, which is a little bit easier compared to PvP mechanics, because another thing too is you had to worry about mobile, which we can talk about in a little bit as well as a factor. And then two, you also have to factor in like player behavior, right? Which is something that like I was the same way at first. I was like, yeah, you know, I'm just gonna evenly distribute all my troops and we'll just attack in a very organized fashion. Maybe I'll focus on one who's a little bit more fame focused. The other one might be my bankroller, right? Whereas I was the same way. I got rank 23. I got one of the kappas, and I'll pull up my screen here in a second. But when I saw that and I saw how many troops I could recruit and all that good stuff, and I saw what the other people were doing, I'm like, well, I got to keep up with this, man. So I'm like, roll all the money into him. And so I started doing the same thing. And I think that's where I was a little defeated as well, because there's some people who do have like 20 generals, right?
Yeah,
so
or just a lot of money to buy token. Like the token shot up on Famous Fox because people were buying it to pump into their guys, and I was like, don't do that. That's not how you're supposed to play the game. But it's, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like I quote this Mike Tyson quote all the time. Like Mike Tyson also says, like everybody got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Like you can plan as much as you can. But once humans get involved in any kind of game, especially with PvP, like all bets are off. Like right now we have the event going, and like there's some things that I'm seeing in the event where like I can't believe people are spending the time to do this, like to try to get up the leaderboard. And it's kind of crazy where just watching humans behave in a way that's like so interesting and fascinating. But it's kind of like it's a bigger ask on the game development team to kind of always be like, okay, people are doing this, we got to kind of nudge them back in this direction again, or try to get them to play it in this way that's a lot healthier for everybody. Because a lot of people honestly like rage quit when that happened. Like they would get wiped out by someone who has a lot more money than them and be like, I can't do this anymore. So like the new patch addressed a lot of that, but we have to also watch that to make sure that people don't figure another way around that. And but yeah, it's been interesting and fascinating. Definitely PvP is no joke. Like we thought it was gonna be like, oh yeah, PvP is fun, but once you have one person is hard enough. Like you can ask Studwood. Like I talk to Studwood all the time. Like I minted my remnants before the game was actually like really going. Like I think they minted the first one, nobody minted it, so then they stopped it, and then they took the money from the first mint to make the game, and then that's when I got in from their second mint. And even then, like the benefit that they had was like their player base was really small when they first minted out and the game was running. So they found a lot of the big issues that we were finding when everybody was watching us, when nobody was watching them. And so it's kind of like the same thing. Every project that does this kind of like have a product out there, they go through the same process. It's just like how many eyes are on it when you're fixing things or trying to frantically fix things. And so it's been fun for us and stressful at the same time.
Absolutely. No, and I can only imagine too, because the market conditions for both those mints were so much different, right? Because Remnants was back around the time, I want to say like Botborgs and Bobos of War and stuff were just around that same time where there was a gaming meta and people were like, yeah, gaming's going to be the way. But all these games are like, yeah, we're releasing in like 6 months. Right. And, we've seen stuff like DeFi Pirates and whatnot just fall flat on their face because they're running into that issue where, one, they don't even have a game up yet. And if they do get something up, they don't even know what player behavior is going to be. They don't know what sort of bugs are going to be because there's so much hype built up around it that if everybody starts hitting it at the same time, it's either like like the amount of attention you get in a moment in NFTs is massive. And if you don't capitalize on it, you fall flat on your face. And we see where some of these projects are today. Whereas you guys have just built through it, right? Like, yeah, a little bit of a rocky start. That's okay. You guys were being first in class. Nobody else was doing a PvP style of game on Solana. So you had to worry about player behavior. You had to worry about Solana in itself, because it was right around the time that Solana was just like completely fumbling the bag. Yeah. And on top of that, people are already upset and fickle because we had just gone down from like, our 140 kind of dead cat bounce up down to like $40. So yeah, it was like a whole lot of emotion that people were so excited to play. They got to play. They're like, this is awesome. And then things just started hitting the fan that just all culminated into one thing. Yeah, it felt like, basically. Dude.
But it's fine because, like, because of the mint, like we have the funds to go for a while. And so we're just going to keep building. And I think people will eventually see, like, I think the big unlock for a lot of people is when they see like another project fighting with Shin Sengoku, and they're gonna be like, holy shit, that's fucking cool. Like the idea of just, I don't want to put out we have a bunch of collabs like in the works right now. Like we're getting to the final point of like, oh yeah, let's do it at this day. So I'm not gonna throw out the names yet, but there's a lot of projects that we're actually interested in doing this, and it's gonna be pretty cool because I think it's like it's gonna be one of the first like truly like composable game experiences where like, hey, I don't own that. I don't own Shin Sengoku NFT, but I own this thing, but I get to play in Shin Sengoku. Like that's pretty fucking cool, and I get to win prizes for that. So, but yeah, it's a play to earn is just like an interesting space. And I think until now, like when I set out to do like a quote unquote play to earn game, I was like, how do you not make it a Ponzi, right? Because I'm sure that's what you're going to talk about in your video, right? Like everything's Ponzi's.
Yeah, well, I talk to Stud at least once a week now because I'm actually flying over to meet up with them and like him, Tom, and Juice, and we're just we're hashing out like 9 days of just whiteboard session. But yeah, it's one of those things where Stud and I were talking, and like originally we had talked about an LP. Not saying it's not off the table, but it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, if we're going to build an LP, you have to build up so much demand for the token to where like people are still buying from it too. It's not just exit liquidity that comes out of a project's funds, right? And there's so many things that once you get to a certain level, because you're right there with it, you actually have a functional game, and that's so much more than a lot of these gaming projects can say. Once you get to a certain level, you have that audience, you start running into problems that you're like, I think this is what they want, but is it good for the project, right? Like, is it good for the long term? So,
right.
You know, it's exciting to see, right? I love the idea of composability with other projects. We saw it initially because we did see like Mount Olympus or Mount Olympus, right? I saw those random guys pop up and I'm like, what is this? I was like, this doesn't look like my guy. But it was fun to see because I'm like, okay, I can kind of see where they're going with it. It was, I guess it was kind of a collaboration with Shiba Pad, right?
Well, what happened with that was like the way that our game works is we pull in update authorities, and so we're like, okay, to have the game live during mint, we have to use the Shiba Pad update authority to pull our data in. And I was like, okay, obviously that's going to be fine because no one's going to be dumb enough to, I mean, not dumb enough, but no one's going to leave their update authority with the launch pad. They're going to take it off because they want to do stuff with it. But turns out a lot of people don't pull their update authority off their launch pad. So like when we spun up, I was like, what the fuck where are all these NFTs in the update authority for Shiba Pad? So that's kind of what happened. So like as soon as we finished the mint, we pulled it off and we put transferred our update authority off of Shiba Pad. And so like now it's just Shin Sengoku NFTs in there. But that was kind of like a funny little thing. Like, but to be honest, like when we were building the game and testing it, we were plugging in, remnants. We were plugging in like all these different collections just to see like, oh yeah, this is gonna be so cool when we can do this in the future. So
I'm excited for a future that we get to kind of overlap people's features as well as ecosystems to where it's just like you start seeing a whole lot of cool combinations, and really you're kind of bootstrapping to other projects as well. Like, you have one feature and we have a feature. It's like trading features almost, and we'll just interweave our ecosystem. But I do have a question about that before I get to Flanders, because he actually did have a good question. But when it comes to interweaving other projects into the Shin ecosystem, right? Do you worry at all about the value of the Shin Sengoku NFT?
I think the value, so like to me, it's like the NFT floor price and the price of the NFTs kind of like it's very similar to like a stock price. Like no matter like how companies are operating, there's basically two types of people that buy NFTs or stocks, right? Like you have the people that like, oh, I like the company, I like the product, I want to be part of that. And then there's the people that are day trading the price action on the asset. And so I think when I look at the NFTs, like it's very similar where a lot of people focus on charts and you're looking at charting and technical analysis. And so like you can't get in your head if the floor price is an indication of the product health if people are trading technicals, because they're going to trade the technical movement and they're going to buy and sell, and buying and selling into technical movements changes the technical movement, right? Like changes the analysis of a technical analysis. So but what we're trying to do is like, I think as we continue to develop, like, right, I told everybody in the Discord, as soon as we get this math patch in, like my full focus is providing value for the holders now. And even if like I think about it like this, like the floor price stays the same forever now. Like it never goes up again, ever again. But we can continue to provide values in other ways, like these events and things where we're giving away NFTs, we're giving away soul, we're giving away things. And it really doesn't matter. Like if people are just play the game and participate in it, they will get some kind of value back in some form anyway. And I think that in itself is the way that I'm trying to focus on. Like I'm trying to focus on that. And if I can provide value and take care of the people that are in the game, and that was always the goal, to create a system where we can kind of take care of this core group of people that are in it with us. And then I think the technicals can do whatever they want to do on the technical side. I think hopefully it does reflect the effort and the creative things that we're going to be putting into the game. But if not, like my goal is just to reward people that are in the game itself. And so there's a bunch of utility things and things that we're going to be building out for our holders. So that's kind of what I'm focused on.
Absolutely. And I think that's really how many projects should be viewing this, especially in a bear market like this, right? Like, oh no, I know it sounds terrible, but like you guys were a 2 Sol mint, and Sol was around like it's somewhere in the $30 to $40 range when you guys did mint. So in the grand scheme of things, like that, I don't know how many other markets that people are in, but you're talking like what, maybe a $40 drawdown on one of your NFTs. Like
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, if you see where the vision is going, like these are just, minute speed bumps on the way to a bigger vision, and eventually
Right.
the value will reflect on that. And I do think when it comes to these games and being kind of on the forefront of innovation, where you're trying to make it a seamless Web3 experience, the value is so much greater than whatever the market is valuing it right now. Because right now the meta is what, like PFP pictures, right? It's
Yeah.
the branding meta.
It's the least interesting version of NFTs to me, to be honest, but that's what people like. But either way, I think about it, it's like, we're giving a famous fox right now for the Gesshoku event for the first place. Like that guy, well, I know who the first place guy is, but like say theoretically the first place guy was a guy that just bought 2 or 3 of them, right? For like they minted 2 or 3. It's like 6 SOL in. They're gonna get an NFT worth 33 SOL. It's like that's value already. Like there's a delta there.
Out.
Yeah, like and that's not. It's not like we're only gonna run one event. The goal is to constantly be running these events with partner projects. The partner projects put up prizes too. So like basically give people ways to, like, if you just play, you're gonna get rewarded in some way, and regardless of the price action of the NFT, there'll be some value for you.
Absolutely. And I'm having fun doing it. Like the price of having fun in a bear market is invaluable to me. Like
that's the utility we're bringing to other projects, the fun in a bear market utility.
That's right, dude. If you market it just with that as a tagline, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of projects knocking on your door. So let's talk a little bit about, so firstly, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so people can kind of see like me doing some attacks, because I do have some saved up right now. And then two, I want to talk about like future implementations that you guys are doing. One of the things I saw was animations, battle animations, adding a little bit more like of the experience into the game. What else are you guys planning on doing besides events and something like battle animations?
Yeah, so the plan from the beginning was basically, PvP was, I've always said it, like our token emission model. Like this is the way we distribute tokens. It was an experiment on how do we distribute tokens to people that are most invested into the project, right? So like the idea of stealing tokens away from players that are less interested or less invested, and then giving that to people that are more invested into the project because they're actually doing the actions and investing the token back into it makes sense. But the goal is always to get like different game modes built. And so we have a PvE game mode being built right now. I wonder if I could share. Dude, I'm so terrible with like this kind of stuff, but I'll just put it on Twitter later or something. Like we have some, like we're building a boss battle game mode right now. It's under development. And so that is going to be a really fun one, I think. And that's going to be one of the first mini game modes that we're going to be having. I actually was supposed to see some things today, but I haven't talked to the developer for that yet. But basically, it's kind of like, again, designing, like my core thesis is for these kind of games, blockchain games, is like the people that are going to be playing them are people that don't have like a ton of time. So they're always going to be very simple kind of games to learn how to play and pick up and play, and not really like complicated strategies of any kind of like, in-depth games that I like. Because I think the people that, even if you extrapolate that out to like the people that are trying to quote unquote play to earn, like those people are generally the most busy people anyway. So like if you were gonna get any of those people in too, like they don't have time to sit down for 6 hours a day doing it. Like our goal is to get on a mobile. We're working on our mobile conversion now that we got the big patch in. Get on mobile, busy people can play it when they have time, sitting on the toilet, sitting in the doctor's office, sitting in line, whatever. And then, but have like basically like, the PvP game, and then from the PvP game going out into PvE experiences, and then these collab events, and basically always having something for somebody to do in the game. And there's a bunch of other things like this version of the game that you're showing everybody is like not even close to where I see the game in like 3 or 4 months. So it's going to look drastically different, I think, as we keep going. It's going to be fun to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know it wasn't always going to be the full version, mainly because I got to talk to you pretty like unobstructed. It was nice being it. Like, again, I'm never early to Discords. I'm never early to projects. But when I found out I was like one of the first 300 or 400 in, I was so stoked, dude. I was like, did I find something first? This is amazing.
Yeah.
And I love the lore that you guys like kind of wove in here. I love that you guys like are strong with the heritage, and you guys are like really sticking with the whole Shogun era of feudal Japan. It's it's engrossing. Like, you guys have some of the best pixel art I've ever seen. It's like, even my commons are, some of them I like more than my Kappa.
Yeah, I like
Even,
the
you know,
commons, man. The
like
armored
this.
samurai stuff. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
those.
I'm just pissed off I didn't get a hooded Sohei, dude. Like, oh man, they're so cool. I'll end up finding one too if I go ahead and attack with my Kappa. By the way, I think I might have found something, Ryan, where I don't know if this is a real thing or not, but it seems like every time I have the ability to level up, if I just leave it there until I'm ready to attack next time, I don't get attacked. I'm not sure if
Oh,
that's like a
really?
thing, or it's just something I noticed because I hadn't played all weekend. And I came back, and one of the guys that I hadn't leveled up seemed to have not been attacked. The
Accumulated a
rest of
bunch
them, yeah,
staking rewards.
I was like, okay, maybe I found something here. I don't
We
know
can
if
take
that's
a
a
look
real
at that.
thing. Yeah, you
Yeah,
guys might have to
maybe.
back test it, but this is what I'm talking about, dude. Like, this is where all my troops go, and I'm like, dude, stop, guys.
Yeah, and then you look at that guy. That's a good one to
Yeah,
attack right
that's,
there.
dude, I'm taking all this
That's a
Rio.
guy that's so what basically happened was one of the big kinks we had with the matchmaking was everybody that had 0 army was getting sorted as one giant clump. It wasn't prioritizing unclaimed staking rewards in the beginning with the first version of matchmaking. So that's why people are like, I have to refresh like 50 times to find anybody that has anything more than 0 army. And it was because of that. Like, everybody who had 0 army was kind of clumped together. So now it's fixed. And so now you'll see people with like 0 army with a ton of unclaimed stake. Those guys were hiding in the previous matchmaking. They're not hiding anymore. They're all going to get taken out.
I love that, because I was definitely, especially with some of my guys that don't have a ton of troops, right? Especially at these lower levels. I'm like, I'm just trying to be out here and surviving, man. Definitely grabbing him. I'm just trying to stack Rio right now so I can kind
That's a good plan. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to conserve. I'm making sure I have enough to like revive my troops. And this is where I get into like critical decision. I'm like, dude, I have 7 in like dead. I guess it makes sense to revive them, but I'm like, I'm so anal about like 5 intervals of 5 because I know I'm just like cost effective like that. So I mean, just like this is fun to me. So okay, do you have any alpha for the event? Because I just got to sit down for a little bit and I have no idea what I'm doing because I'm back at like square one.
You take a look at the leaderboard. Oh yeah, you gotta
sign
1 minute.
Again. Yeah, let me go ahead.
You got to get your password.
Yep. I know. This happens to me every stream, dude. It's so I need to do it. It just refresh my.
Yeah, probably you're playing in the other game, and then
so
take a look at the leaderboard.
Okay.
If you take a look at the leaderboard at the top, you can kind of take a look. So the people at the top are the ones winning the prizes. But if you look at your wallet, there's a button for your wallet. You'll see how many points each of your guys got. The goal for you is to get everybody in your wallet above 50 points. And
okay.
50 points unlocks an achievement for you, the Gesshoku achievement, which we're going to use that achievement to gate access into future events. And so basically, there'll be future events that only people that played in this event and got 50 points get to play in. So it's like a smaller pool of the Shin Sengoku holders that get access to prizes for that. And it's not going to be all exclusive events in the future, but there will be some that's like, yeah, if you didn't play in that first one, sorry, you're not going to be able to play in
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Well, see, now I have 8 troops and I'm going up against 8. I'm like,
yeah.
Let's go ahead and, see.
So that's the new matchmaking is trying to match you with people that are around your strength. So it's like, it's
that's
a little janky for the event. It's good for the main game, but for the event, it's like, I'm going to give this guy some points too.
Okay. See, I got to attack this because I need Rio. And that's my thing. I'm just trying to make sure that I have 50 points across all of them, because I want all of them to be not gated for the next event. So
right, and that's also like part of the idea of like everything that we're trying to do. Like the ideas that come up is like, how do you allow players to add more value to their NFTs? Like the big thesis that I came in was when I started designing the game was like, okay, how do you make it so like someone who mints the worst NFT in the project can make that NFT be worth more? So some of the things we're developing now is like a skinning system that allows people to reskin their NFTs, kind of like entangling, but a little bit different, where, you know, if you hit a certain level or unlock an achievement or you place in an event, then maybe you get a skin that you can, I say entangle because that's the way we're planning to do it, but, you know, basically skin into a different look of your NFT, or maybe even like a one-of-one skin that you could skin into. And then now you have that looking NFT and stuff. So that's being built. The PVE is being built right now. Mobile version is under development soon. That's the next thing. And we're just doing a lot of other quality of life things, like the way that you have to manage your guys now. It's kind of like janky. You got to go through one at a time. We'll have a window that pops up where you can manage all of them at once. And but there's a lot of other things, like items are coming. Some other things for the defense. Like right now, like attackers always have kind of like an advantage. We're planning to roll out some items that kind of give some advantages to defenders. As if you're going to focus on defending rather than attacking, there's ways so you can kind of like, we have ideas for items for that. So those will be distributed through, you know, the PvP or like a different mini game. And yeah, it's gonna be real fun to build all these things. Like we're having a lot of fun. Me and the dev were full time on this. Like he was a consultant for like a FANG company, like Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google tier company, and he left that to work on this project. So we're both full time on this.
I love it, dude. Two big brains on one project. What more could you want? And I cannot stress this enough, guys. This is an incredible project to be in, because one, you know, whenever you can hear the passion in Ryan's voice for what he wants to do with the project. And like, this is a pure passion project. Obviously, right. Ryan did not have to go into this. Ryan did not have to do this himself. He did this because he just wanted to do something really cool for a community and build something that we can all share an experience in. So like, how could you not be? There's so many cash grabs out there, guys. There's so many, especially in a bear market. People are like all-time high at scamming, rugging, degen mints, turning into like absolutely nothing, and they're going away with the bag. Like this is you could not get into a better project for this cost. Like
right, and also like, you know, you'll see this soon enough when your YouTube channel is huge. Like you could, if I wanted to just make money, I'll just show Raid Shadow Legends for 10 grand a video. Like that's the going rate for like, these videos, you know, like, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna instead start an NFT project and hear people complain about the floor price every day, you know, but that's, I just love it. Like I wanted to do this because I just love the idea of what NFTs can be. And I wanted to kind of, more than anything, like be part of this first generation of NFT creators and be like, when people look back in 5 years, like, holy shit, that Shin Sengoku project, like they're the first ones that did like this composable game thing. They're the first ones that kind of unlocked some of the big ideas that people are using NFTs for in the future. And so that's the reason why I'm doing it. Cause there's like, I tell the story all the time. Like my plan was just to like sell, because we sold the business last year in October. I was like, I'll just be dad for like a year or two. Like I don't have to do anything if I don't want to. But no, I'm doing this, and at the expense of my family life. It's like, you know, on Discord, 15 hours a day, working with developers and getting this thing built. So
well, I'm sure you'll get to a point too where it's like a little bit more scaled back, and you're like, hey, I can finally get some sleep and spend more time with my family and everything like that. It's just that those first initial months of really building the project to where it's like a little bit more sustainable, where you're like, okay, we can now like really start planning out our plans of action in a more coordinated and time blocked manner, versus like, shit, we got to put out this fire, and we got to put out this fire and this fire up here, and like it's crazy. Sure. So
that big math patch that we rolled out, was it today or yesterday? It was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
The breather, like, oh, okay, now we can kind of like breathe a little bit, because a lot of the big bugs are fixed, the withdrawals are there, the new math is in. People, if they get wiped out, they can recover relatively quickly. Now we can focus on the roadmap. Like, so like, I really do think like now it's like, finally we can build the things that I finally wanted to build, right? And do the things that I wanted to do since the beginning. Like we had planned the first event in the first week of Mint. Like that was the plan, like Mint, and then, oh, we have an event for you guys right here. It just didn't happen that way. We got pushed back about a week and a half. And then the math patch pushed us back another week. So we're like, finally we got the event going. First of many to come. First collabs coming. Those are going to be really fun, and just like a bunch of cool stuff that we're going to be building. Like it's exciting.
I'm excited for it, because this just gives me the vibe of like like I said, pure passion project. I knew it from the start because I already talked to you, but it's one of those things where you can just tell this team cares tremendously about like creating a culture and community that like wants to push the envelope past the next iteration of what we're seeing as the meta in NFTs, which is where I'm positioning myself, right? Like I can miss the next PFP project. I don't really care. I've said that plenty of times on my channel. The only thing I'm buying right now is true value. It's like the Ryans of the world. It's the Shakes of the world. It's the Studwoods of the world, right? Where I'm like, these guys just want to do the coolest thing possible with whatever they have in their means. And I'm excited for you.
It's just kind of like, it's kind of just one of these things where I'm looking at NFTs and I'm like, this is like one of the most transformational technologies for the internet that has come along in 20 years. And we're using it to make trading cards, basically. Like that's kind of what people do it now. And so like it was just exciting for me to kind of try to like, hey, no, like, and credit to Studwood, man, with Remnants. He was like the one that really opened my eyes to like, holy shit, like, yeah, obviously you could do a lot more things with NFTs than just trade them as a profile picture or stuff. And so he's gonna probably, in terms of Solana, like he inspired so many other projects from what he did with the his version of gamified staking and loot trips and things. So it's kind of just like once I saw those opportunities, like, oh fuck yeah, then you could kind of gate based on metadata. You could do these things with metadata. You can do anything with metadata, and it's like one of the most powerful things about NFTs, rather than just like look which one has 3D glasses or laser eyes. Like there's so much more you could do with metadata than just look at the metadata. So,
well, it's funny. I mean, how long you've been in crypto since 2017, right? That was about the same time I started looking at it. I was like, man, this is cool. It's going up in price, which obviously catches your attention. But you're like, okay, why is it going up in price? Because I heard it back when I was in college, I think. And I was like in my freshman year, and I heard like, oh, have you heard of the Silk Road? Like, you need to buy some Bitcoins, and we can get some pot from there. And I'm like, what? Yeah. What do you? This sounds ridiculous. What? I don't know if I want this. And then I heard about it back in 2017 from my stock group. You start looking at it, and you're like, man, this is sick. And I don't know if you remember, there was a couple of people. It was his name originally was Crypto Stan Marsh, and then what's the other guy's name? They made like rare Pepes or something. It was before the ER720,
Bitcoin, right? On
yeah,
Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that was Saigo's first NFT.
That's amazing, dude. Yeah. And it's like it's amazing to where we come, but like, have we really come that far? Because we're still like really bullish on stuff that's just like branding and like, yeah, this is like a really appealing PFP. And like that is cool. Like art is definitely the easiest, most like initial use case for NFTs, but we got to evolve past there at some point. And so it's really building up an ecosystem that's like you're doing. Like
I think it's coming.
Yeah, I think so too. I got this weird feeling that I'm like, dude, these projects cannot be continuing to be suppressed, not even in terms of value. Like I don't care about the value. I care more about, I want the attention. I want people I want the smartest people in these projects, where it's like, hey, what else can we do? How do we scale this game? How do we make it more accessible to other people? How do we continue to push the envelope with metadata and what we can do with it, right?
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, it's so obvious to me that it's going to happen, because just take a look at these couple of things, like airline rewards. Airline rewards is a gamified point system, right? They're basically, companies are getting you to do actions to accumulate points that get you some kind of reward. And that's kind of like what we're trying to build with Shin Sengoku as well in this layer. And so like you can extrapolate that to like other ideas. Like I think the true unlocks for NFTs are going to come from these kind of things. Like, oh yeah, now like your points reward system for whatever airlines is like an NFT that you can then sell to somebody else, right? Like that NFT accumulated a bunch of points, freaking flyer points, and now you can sell that NFT to somebody else. Then they can use freaking flyer points, and like, so it's not even like a far leap to see where this thing is going to go. It's just that nobody's focused on that right now. Everybody's focused on like, it's a lot easier to so I kind of told this to my team too. It's like, it's like, it's a lot of the people that are flipping NFTs and talking shit about projects and making project founders burn out. It's like they're equivalent to like the fans in the stands, like, oh, how could you drop that pass? Like it's so easy. But it's like it's a lot harder to be on the field running and trying to catch the ball and stuff. And so like that's the reason why we haven't seen those things yet, because it's really hard to do that, to build that NFT project that is like, okay, now sell it to Alaska Airlines, like Michael Travis is saying, like sell it to Alaska Airlines for like $50,000 a month MRR, and then that's what their point system is now, right? Like, but that's gonna come. Like that's so obvious to me that that's just one instance of like NFT usage in the future. It's like so obvious, and like there's all kind of things like the Starbucks rewards thing and all these kind of gamified middlemen things, or like gamified things that people use to drive commerce, make a ton of sense for NFTs. And so
yeah,
Shin Sengoku is like, not to let too much out of the bag, but an experiment in these kind of like, how do you get people to take action for rewards? And then it's for me, like it's an easy switch to get to like, oh yeah, if you can prove this model out here, then it's like this company can obviously see value in this in some way in the future. So It's exciting. Like it's the most exciting thing that I've seen on the internet for a long time. I remember after crypto crash in 2018, I was so depressed. Like I thought this was the future. I thought this was gonna change the world. I guess I gotta go back to Web 2 and build, But yeah, but the NFT thing was, I think the NFTs are the true consumer unlock for so many people. And it's just so ironic that so many normal people hate NFTs, because it's like, you don't even know, like your life will be better when this becomes ubiquitous, So it's gonna be fun to watch.
Oh, it's gonna be so exciting. I get really excited for seeing all the use cases just play out in my head. But you're right, like, and that is, I think that's what's dragging down the market right now, is because one, prices go down. A lot of people view this as speculative assets, which
Yeah.
most are on the market, right? A lot of these branding projects, and that's it, or these cash grabs or anything like that. Whereas we're building something that is going to be used in many different facets. We just don't know if this is the final form yet, right? Like, I mean, just imagine somebody comes in, they're like, hey, we want to use Shin Sengoku's platform to drive like consumer behavior towards buying our product or something like that.
Right.
It's it'll happen. I mean, we understand that. I think it's encouraging to see that somebody else has that sort of forward focus as well.
Like I tell everybody like that. None of my real life friends like to listen to me talk about NFTs, but I'll tell anybody that listens. Yeah, it's like the coolest shit on the internet in the next couple of years is going to come out of NFTs. It's just like nobody knows what that thing is yet. Like and that's why it's fun, because everybody who's actually building and not just cheering from the sidelines is like trying to figure out. No, not everybody, but a lot of people that are building in NFT land are trying to figure out what is that thing that's going to be like the unlock for like the mass consumers, for like, oh yeah, that makes a lot. Like email was a huge unlock for a lot of people for the internet, where it's like, I can send a letter without a stamp. That's amazing. Like that sounds so stupid now, but like that was a huge thing back in the day. And like apps on the iPhone was a huge thing, another leap. And I consider NFTs to be that, like a similar leap of like internet pre-app and then internet post-app mobile app is going to be like internet pre NFTs and then internet post NFTs is going to be a similar evolution. And so it's going to be, and then the Solana things that they're coming out with, the Solana phone with the SDK is going to be huge. Like I think a lot of NFT traders don't understand how huge that is. It's like, it basically gives any NFT project creator that wants to do cool shit, like what we're trying to do, access to build a mobile native application for like Android. And so it's like, dude, like it's so transformational. Like, and so that unlocks like use case and like all these kind of things that can come out of that, like ideas like I'm talking about, like airline points and like in-store point systems and all these kind of like gamified commerce things can come out of that because you have that SDK now. And so like I'm looking at that stuff heavily, like holy shit, like that could be the thing. And like I turned down like venture capital for Shin Sengoku. I had offers from investors to do it. I wanted to build with the community, but man, like there's gonna be so much opportunities coming out. And that's the thing. Like I talk about this. I think I posted a tweet about this the other day. I was like, it's fascinating to see like the early adopters for Web3 in terms of NFTs is like way huger than the early adopters for Web2. Like nobody cared about Web2 until like MySpace and Friendster and those things came out. But I was in there and there's just a bunch of nerds talking about tagging. Like tagging is the next thing on the internet. You can tag things. Like that was like transformational, And so it's like, it's a weird thing because the early adopter group for Web2 was so small, but people got the tech. But the early adopter group for NFTs is like larger, but nobody understands how cool this shit is. And so it's like, it's kind of a weird thing to watch. And it's kind of like, how do you get people to realize like how cool and transformational this is actually going to be? You should actually be thinking about, how can I start the next business with this technology? Because it's going to really change the world.
Exactly. And it does, I think the reason where, it looks like Web3 has a much bigger audience is because there's financial incentives tied to it, right?
Exactly.
Like it's much more easy
very
to monetize
kumbaya
it.
in Web2.
Yes.
It's like, oh yeah, it's like change the world. Hold hands.
We do have that small community in Web3 that is still kumbaya and like we are going to change the world, but it's so hard to sift between like who is actually in it for the tech and who is actually in it for the money, right? And like we always joke,
it's not mutually exclusive. It's not mutually exclusive.
No,
you can be in it
isn't.
Yeah.
But dude, how cool is it that we can learn about this tech and still make money on the same side? Like that's awesome, man. We're just like bridging the gap between people building cool shit and people who want to invest in it, like not have to worry about that middleman anymore, where there's so many hoops and regulations. Granted, there may come a time when that happens, but yeah, there's definitely going to be. But hopefully, it isn't as strict as like accredited investors, right? Like they get the first dibs on these really, awesome startups or anything like that, where they actually get to seed some of this huge venture capital. Whereas like everyday, like I want to throw $100 at that. I don't know where you can in NFTs. Like I think that's the coolest premise is that
it's
for everybody.
I built Shin Sengoku on that premise too, but now I'm like, maybe accredited investors are there for a reason because people get people put more money in than they can afford to lose. And when you do that, you put yourself into a situation where you're going to make irrational decisions that maybe aren't in your best financial interest. But I understand like why accredited investors exist, but also like just the fact that your NFTs provide a way to get exposure to an idea now that you couldn't get exposure to in the past. And even if you're not like quote unquote investor, you're just a holder of the NFT, like a good project founder can reward a holder for his entire lifespan, right? Like a project could fail, die, but everybody still owns that NFT because it never goes away. Come back 2 years later and be like, hey, everybody who wants that NFT, this is my new thing. You all have, you're all in it because I'm taking care of you guys. And I think that's pretty powerful too.
Yeah. Somebody summed it up the best. I want to say it's Dollar. He's known as Dollar on Twitter, where it was like NFTs are the first time that you can become a consumer, ambassador, and investor at the same time. Like, and it's so seamless. And I think that's a really powerful concept that not a lot of people are like grasping at. Do you know how hard it is to economically and culturally and visually align your ambassadors, your consumers, and your investors at the same time? You get to do that with NFTs. Like that's a really powerful movement that we can harness.
Yeah, and also like as a creator, it feels so much better because from my previous businesses, I've always had evangelists for things that I've done. Like people like the ideas of things that I'm doing, and then they go out and they just talk about it. They make videos about it. They participate in things that I'm doing. They're so excited, but they don't see any upside other than just being like, I was early. I found out about this thing early, but now it's like you do that with NFTs and you see like a financial upside too. And you get to like reap the rewards of that side too, which I love. Like I had a Patreon for my YouTube channel. I shut it down because I felt like I just wasn't giving enough value for the people on Patreon. So it's like, yeah, sorry. And they're like, no, don't shut it down. We just they want that connection with the creator. And NFTs gives like, I feel no guilt, with the connection that I have with the holders of Shin Sengoku. Cause like, I know I'm going to try to provide tremendous value for you, and I've always have a shot to provide value as long as you hold the NFTs. Like the whole one of our bigger holders, like I was just talking to him, he's like, dude, yeah, like I don't know. And I was like, well, what do you like? He's like, actually really like ramen. I was like, oh, funny you should say that. Like I actually have a big connection with a lot of famous ramen chefs in the country and things, and so maybe we should start to bring some ramen utility to Shin Sengoku. And he's like, that would be amazing. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, this is the guys that I know. And he's like, holy shit. Like my wife's profile picture is that guy's food. I was like, okay, yeah, goodness. Let's do it. And so like the fact that you can always figure out ways to provide value for your holders. I love that aspect of NFTs as well. Like I don't think about my holders as like customers. I think about like, you guys are like the people that are in there in the community. And so like, I can always try to figure out, it doesn't even have to be like Shin Sengoku, right? Like ramen is like not Shin Sengoku related, but I can still figure how to get that in there. And so, yeah, ramen utility is on the docket. Like the guy that's coming in to help me with my ramen content, he's like legitimately one of the best ramen chefs in the country. And he's going to be, I told him already, like, I want to bring in ramen stuff into Shin Sengoku, and I want to bring Shin Sengoku into the ramen world too. So we're going to be working on going both ways.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so exciting.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about NFTs is like, you can do that shit. Like you can't like for the ramen thing, like their YouTube channel, like I was thinking like, I can make a cookbook, like that's, and people, I got emails all the time, like, hey, we're a publisher. You want to write a cookbook? We'll give you this royalties and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. But like a cookbook with NFTs now, or like, this kind of stuff is really, you can constantly provide value. Like if I sold a cookbook to somebody, I couldn't do anything other than I took your money and you have a cookbook now. But now it's like, you have this and I can keep giving you this and keep giving you this. And you see Gary Vee, I have a V friend, like I have one of Gary Vee's NFTs, and he does this all the time. Like, recently he's like, hey, everybody who has this one gets some package of vitamins. And so like everybody could claim a vitamin pack for owning a V friend. It's like, that's cool. Like it has nothing to do with V friends, but it's like, that's kind of interesting. So
well, it's nice little holdings. And that's another thing too about rewarding, because we see we see in NFTs a lot these days, and it's something I don't agree with. And I've talked a lot with a lot of different people. Is they say like, "Hey, we're gonna airdrop this thing," or "We're gonna get ready. We're taking a snapshot," and like I think there's some opportunities there where it makes sense, but most of the time I feel like it should just be a surprise thing, right? Like just a nice little like, hey, thank you so much for holding like during this time. You didn't have to, you just believed in the project. Here's something in advance. And like I don't think it should be announced or anything like that. I think it should be like a social event where people are like, man, I cannot believe, I got this airdropped. Like this is what I get for believing in the project. That's awesome. And
it's called
I also
surprise and
think,
delight in the business world.
yeah,
It's a really
exactly.
good thing to do. Yeah.
I mean, I do it all the time with my real estate clients, right? Like I
Of
just
course.
pop by and
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, thank you so much for like your business. And they're like, dude, I bought a home like 6 months ago. I was like, I don't care. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It's always a nice thing. And then two is like having an opt-in for rewards, right? Like I love Shake's training platform. It's what Moonbirds are doing with nesting. It's what Catalina whales. But I one of the things I would say about Catalina whales is to have that timer, and it's like their mint pass for XYZ. And I'm like, no, you should like reward people for holding it, and they could decide what to do with their credits, like what Shake's doing with Cyber Samurai. He's like, hey, you guys, there's a bunch of different cool things. You want whitelists? Like, hey, we got some premier whitelists over here. Do you want merch? We got some of the best merch we can get. Like, here's, you guys get to opt in on what you want. It's like, yeah, let's go. This is awesome. So, I love hearing from guys like you, Ryan, on just passion for, hey, we're just gonna bring value, and it doesn't even have to be monetary, right? Like we're providing value in different ways, and we're just gonna figure out what works and what our community likes, and we're gonna have you opt into it.
Yeah, actually, like I should tell you the story about my first NFT project idea that I was this close away from doing, because it kind of goes back to the ramen thing where like, so when I was doing my ramen YouTube channel, it's like, okay, I really want to do an NFT project because I was deep into NFTs at the time too, and it's like, okay, like, but normal people don't like NFTs, so like, how do I get ramen people to buy NFTs? And I was like, I came up with this idea, and I actually ran an MVP for it, like a minimal viable product, where I just designed like this JPEG, all look the same, and I just like, okay, every week I have a huge network of like ramen shops and chefs that know me. And so like, I'll be like, hey, who wants to like I'll just buy some ramen for people in your area. And I'll be like on my Instagram, I have like maybe 16,000 followers on Instagram or something like that. I don't remember. I'll just be like, hey, anybody in this area who wants I forget how I did it. First 5 people in the area that replied to this gets this JPEG that you could come into the ramen shop and get free ramen. Right. And I did that like every week for like 3 months. And it was a fucking ton of work, and my computer died in the midway, so like I had to redo the JPEG and stuff. But that's kind of like what I was planning to do, like with the NFTs. Like, okay, I'll mint the NFT, and it would just be like anywhere in the world. I'll just have like a week of like, oh yeah, you in this week you could use the NFT to walk into this random ramen shop and just like get a bowl of ramen, and so like that stuff is still on the table because I still have the network and things, and I just like the idea of being able to do that with always being able to like reward holders. And that's always the missing piece for me for like a lot of the commerce. Like I felt guilty with my first business a little bit, which probably held me back with the capitalism side, like feeling guilty for taking money from people because I felt like I wasn't giving enough. And I would always try to like provide more value, but they were super happy with everything that we gave them. And so it was just, I just love the NFTs that I can do that now, like go above and beyond. Not even 10% ramen discount, free ramen. It's not even discounts. It was free ramen. I bought the ramen.
These aren't coupon codes.
Yeah, these aren't coupon codes. And it was cool because like those people that came in, like it was kind of like a secret club, right? Like they would be like, hey, they'll show the chef, like, hey, I got this. And they're like, okay, here.
They're like wink. They're like, yeah, we'll go to the back room real quick. We'll get the nice stuff. That's amazing. Yeah. But it's cool. It brings up a really cool premise too, because you're being able to reward people for access that you have personally, and you're being able to distribute that like access that you have, right? So like if you were the best vino in the world, like if you were Gary V back in the day when he was making his OG videos of just tasting wine and stuff, you could, like, since he has those connections, you don't have, like, I don't have the same connections Gary V does, but Gary V can, through his NFT, be like, hey, I just got all my holders like rewards of wine, right? Like it's just finding the people who are the most connected in that world, and you can literally share that connection. I think that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it's gonna be fun to see like a lot of more projects like that coming out. Like it was really like, this was a special time, and I don't know if it's probably still special, but I think with the markets down and stuff, It's going to be changing, and it's only a matter of time before like the real sharks and killers come into the NFT space, where people like, why would anybody mint this random undoxed team when you have like a legitimate businessman with like a ton of connections, and he's asking the same price as like this Fiverr art and undoxed.
Right.
You know, it's like, so like it was really like a magical time for people that could get going with like you could be nobody and get going. That stuff's not gonna last forever, right? And so it's gonna be it's gonna be fun to watch that, and the space mature, and the true utility for NFTs be discovered. But it's just, anybody that's listening to this conversation now is like, holy shit, I was in it in the beginning, because I've watched Web 1 and I've watched Web 2, and this looks very similar. Like it rhymes with Web 2, like the things that I've seen in early Web 2.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, it's why everybody called me crazy trying to start an NFT channel in the middle of a bear market, which like I got bored with my real estate channel. Like that's how I get like 70% of my business, and I refer most of that business out. I have a team that kind of works for me. Well, I get to work on shit like this. Like this is the shit that I wake up and I'm like, dude, this is the forefront. I have so many ideas. Like, you know, I'm trying to talk to a 3D printing company who actually 3D prints homes. They've done a few in Tallahassee. They're working in Tampa. And I'm like, okay, there is some way I can bridge the gap between 3D printing, NFTs, and people like affordable housing. Like those are three awesome things that I can just like interweave somehow. And I'm just trying to figure out how to piece all the gaps together. But it's when it happens, the only thing that's really the holdup is actually local law enforcement. Like everybody's building codes and stuff like that. There's not really building codes for 3D printed homes, which is like the big booger bear right now. But dude, it's just like, dude, those ideas will come to life. And I don't know if it's going to be me. I don't know if it's going to be somebody else, but I'm so excited for it. Like I'm so excited for people to crack the code with the power that we have here.
There's just like a huge opportunity for like a more pure alignment of incentives, where the flow of capital is like a slightly different flow than before. I mean, we're still doing a lot of venture capital in Web3. Like a lot of these things are funded by venture capitalists, so that flow of capital is the same. But the NFT throws a little bit of a monkey wrench into it. It's like there's projects like Remnants who's like, fuck venture capital, I'm just gonna mint another set and raise $1 million, and that's the same amount you could get as like a seed round from like a good VC. So it's like, it does throw like a little bit of like, oh, you know, maybe we don't need to go that route, and I can actually reward people in different ways. And I love the 3D. I was looking at 3D printed houses, because affordable housing where I live is a tremendous problem. Like nobody can afford to live here except people that move here, and so a lot of the people that I grew up with have to leave, and it sucks because they're like people in Hawaii. There's like a greater connection to home, what we call home, than like I think other places have. So like. There's a lot of people, a lot of Americans are very transitory. Like they'll just move, like, I want to move to a different city. But like people that grew up here are like, no, this is my home. Like I never want to leave, but they're forced to leave because they can't afford it anymore. So, but yeah, man, like I was looking at 3D printing houses like 15 years ago. Like, this is like really cool. It's like toothpaste, like squeezing toothpaste out, making a house out of toothpaste.
And it's not toothpaste, it's like cement. You know, it's like, you're like, how did that happen? What?
Yeah.
But it's very exciting. And I'm glad to be in the space with someone like you, Ryan, where it's like, hey, there are good people in this space. I promise it's not just like all cash grabs. It's like people who are trying to push the boundaries. Also, Ricky, yes, that is a disgrace to the Shin fam. You've never had ramen before, dude. Ramen is like one of the greatest joys to your mouth. It's incredible blend of flavors, and you should get on that immediately.
Tell me about the so like one of the things, like I remember that first call that I did with like Shake, like, dude, I think I just sold out your collection, get on this space. And I was like, I got on, and they're like, I didn't even know who it was. Like honestly, I don't know any of these influencers. Like I'm asking like my team, like Manoa and Sai, like who are these guys? Because I don't really, I'm old, like I don't go on Twitter that often. And they're like, oh no, he's like this guy and this guy, and he's like, like usually I get emails and DMs from every single project launching. I'm checking my DMs. I didn't get anything from you. I was like, oh, is that bad? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, if that's
I know who it was. Oh, it was Alexander. I actually had him on the last live stream I did with like another person, because I usually do like one with a guest, one with by myself, where I just talk about the market. And no, Alex is great. He's actually, he comes across as like this big shit poster. Now that he has a huge following, he's like, well, it's almost irresponsible of me to like make any calls or anything like that. It's like the same thing with Frank from D Gods, where he's like, hey, I think I like this project. And everybody's like, Frank likes this project? Buy. And it's like, oh man, I didn't want to like coordinate a pump, and like he don't. You can tell he doesn't mean to, and I think Alex kind of does the same thing. So
well, I
it's
was just
really
wondering
nice.
like how they're dealing with the bear market now, because it really is like, you know, the meta has changed. Like for a period of time, you could mint anything and flip for something, but I think a lot of the easy exit liquidity is gone from the space now. So people are, I feel like maybe a lot of the people that made their living off flipping, they're probably lost a little bit, right? Like, what do I do now? Like, you can't.
Yeah.
I think Shin was kind of like the one, and the reason why Shin pumped and dumped was like, people saw like, oh, this is the one that we can finally do this with, right? Like we can do some things with that, like the price action for that. But I was just kind of wondering, like, because I don't follow like a lot of these influencer people, like what are they doing now, like with the markets in the way that they are, kind of like at the bottom. I feel like you're getting kind of put up into that echelon too now, right? Like you and Shake are kind of getting up in there.
Yeah, it's sort of like it's funny because the people that I actually like as influencers, because there's so many bad ones, dude. I mean, it's just like NFT projects where it's like I know for a fact you're doing nothing good for the space and you're using followers as exit liquidity, like straight up. So I've always said, you know, if I grow following, great. If not, like I'm just here to help the next person, like onboard the next generation of NFT users and really try to unlock the potential. That is my ultimate goal. And if I build a following with that, so be it. But I know like Alexander, they call it the Grill House. I don't know if that was just like a name that came up or something, but they would, it's good. I actually like it for the space because there was so much just like random bullishness where it's like, oh, I meant anything. It 2X's. I just made money. This is amazing. And Alex came on, I think, at a pretty critical time where he started just like bringing mints on. And I can't remember. I think it was Great Goats. I think it really started with Great Goats. And they're like, dude, this is a scam. Like, this is ridiculous. You have dick nose goats that are literally ripping off OK Bears, who are kind of ripping off Basie over here. Like, this is absurd. Like, why are you doing this? And just like grilling them over what their plans are, what they're going to do with mint funds. And like, I actually think it was really healthy for the ecosystem. He then talked about how he had too much like, oh, the next person's going to come on here and like dunk on this project, and really they shouldn't be dunking on this. Like we're getting a little too much roasty rather than like honest questions.
Right. Like
so yeah, they're still doing it, and they're actually doing, like, for the most part, they're doing a pretty good job. I know there's a couple that like they missed out on primates, which I think a lot of people were kind of surprised by. Like, you know, it is really good art. I'll give them that. It's unique, but
nice.
it's another monkey, dude. Like, do you know how many monkeys and apes and everything we have in the NFT space? You know, it looks good, but it's not pushing the envelope. That's what gets me up out of bed. You know, I'm like, what are you doing to push the envelope further? And so they are still doing it. They are still having projects up. Bless some of these projects' hearts that aren't minting out, and some of them actually have, like, I can see where they're going, but it's the 6-month time frame that they need to get their product out of the ground, and the current Web3 user, the ones who's active on the market, don't have that attention span, right? Like, and then you have to find out, well, how do I get my project back in the spotlight when I actually do something, when I have that moment? And it's hard, dude. It's like hard to sift yourself away from the next hot thing, the next hot PFP, when you're actually building something incredible.
Yeah, that's interesting. But the big question that I had was like, what does the bottom look like in terms of like community level at the base layer, right? Like how many total, what's the TAM for like a like any kind of NFT project, right? Is like 1,000 people that are buying every single one, or is it like 50,000 people, 100,000?
Right.
Like what does that community look like at the base layer of, like, I was kind of looking at Crypto Slam, and like, oh, like the daily transaction volume is still pretty high for Solana. So like hopefully it's somewhere in the millions, or at least in the 500,000s, like of total TAM for Solana ecosystem. But yeah, that's the big question that I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like influencers probably have a better pulse on that than I do.
I can promise you there's definitely somebody we can reach out to that has more of an insight on that. But you know, it's encouraging to see, because we can go on like hellomoon.io, which is another great analytics tool that's for free for anybody who doesn't know. I did a video with them as well. I'm so thrilled to be doing videos with great projects, man. Like people who are actually doing great things in the space. But they have a bunch of analytics on the Solana DeFi and NFT market, and just showing like daily active users. And we've continued to go up for the most part. I think there was a little bit of a stall in the past month, but we've pretty much kept traction. So it's really encouraging to see that we're adopting at a faster rate. We have the better UI UX, in my opinion. And I'm
Oh
trying
yeah,
not to
hands
be like
down.
ultimate Solana maxi or anything like that.
Nah,
Like
dude, like
if something else
Ethereum
comes
sucks.
out,
Like
great. Yes, it does. Thank you. You said
like
it, not me.
I have like the thing about it, like I you know, I was in there with Ethereum and I have some friends for like that are really Ethereum maxis and they're fully bought into this thing where it's like, oh no, the layer twos are gonna save us and all this thing. Is like, dude, it sucks. Like the user experience is bad and you should feel bad. Like you don't admit it. Like it's not a MetaMask is not a good experience. Like having to go into OpenSea to check what your NFT looks like is stupid. Like you
Yeah.
shouldn't have to do that, right? You should just be
Right.
like, you look at your wallet. Oh, that's in my wallet. So like, yeah, in terms of like the blockchain with like in terms of a blockchain that has the best shot of mass consumer adoption, it's Solana, like by far. Like
Yeah.
the mobile SDK is huge. Like again, people don't realize how huge of a deal that mobile SDK
Yeah,
is.
that
Like it is
mobile stack is gonna be
huge.
unreal, dude.
And like the mobile wallets and things that they have for is so much better than what the
Phantom's
other.
incredible. Oh man,
Yeah.
the first time I pulled up Phantom in general, like switching over from ETH was like,
Yeah.
holy crap, dude! Like there was nothing happening on Sol.
And
So
also just like the speed of iteration of ideas on Solana versus Ethereum. Like I
yes,
haven't been too much into the Ethereum ecosystem for a while, but you know, like I know like the big projects, and when I look at what the big projects are doing, it's like, you know, Moonbirds I think is one of the most innovative projects on Ethereum because of Kevin Rose. But it really is like, you know, we've had similar like Catalina, like you said, Catalina Whales has something similar before Moonbirds, right? And like
yeah,
and there's a lot of other things going on, but I don't know. I probably have a little bit of Soul Maxi in me, a little bit.
I know. I try so hard to be agnostic, especially for educational purposes, and trying to explain to people like what the difference is. I mean, it still is hands down. Ethereum is a better place to raise cap. Like,
Oh yeah,
imagine Moonbird's trying. Like, I don't care how I know how good Kevin Rose is, right? But
yeah,
like, Solana does not have that kind of liquidity or tension
no,
from people who have that liquidity, I should say,
yeah,
to fund something like a 2 ETH mint, you know, which would
yeah,
have been what, like close to 100 Sol at the
yeah,
time,
like 100 Soul
somewhere
mint,
between 60 and 100 Sol. I can't remember the
right?
price difference, but yeah, that is, dude, people would have lost their shit. That's literally like that would have put it already at like the number 3 project on Solana. So
Yeah, yeah,
you know, it's still there, but I think we're heading in the right direction. I think the more we get people onboarded, and the mobile stack, the mobile SDK is going to be massive for adoption and just and bringing on new talent. I think that's the next big thing too. I think that's what pushes us forward is like, we need more development talent, right? If we can attract people and make it more easy, like the ease of use for developing, way better, then we exponentially increase our ability to further mass adoption.
Yeah, the thing about like, you know, for us in the remnants, we're building a lot of things off chain, and I think off chain is kind of like a no in some of the other blockchains. Like, oh, you got to do everything on chain, but on chain is I liken it to like trying to do video streaming in the 90s with dial-up internet. It was a terrible
Right.
experience, you know, and it's a pretty terrible experience to try to do a lot of things on chain. It's a lot of friction, and so I think for us on Solana, like we're okay with this like kind of like Web 2.5, Web 2.75 ish kind of
Yeah.
internet where like you're storing value on the blockchain, but you're still scaling with Web 2. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of like where the big consumer unlocks can come as far as like mass consumer adoption. So, and I feel like Solana people are okay with that. Like we're okay with
Yeah.
remnants being off chain. We're okay with Shin Sengoku being off chain. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And I think you're right, mainly because we're so immune to like, you know, mode decentralization, right? From the ETH maxis. They're like, oh, you guys aren't decentralized. I'm like, oh okay. We're not trying to be the next reserve currency, right? Like that was never our goal. And I like, it's so frustrating to talk to them, dude.
I mean, one of my best friends is like really big on ETH, and it really is like it's just a different end goal. Like it's pretty like once I saw the mobile SDK, it's like, oh, okay, like they are looking to be an operating system. Like Solana is an operating system. We're not technically it's an operating system with a native currency, Solana. I mean Sol, but it's not trying to be like a money. Like Ethereum is like sound, like the Ethereum Max is like sound money. You know, we're selling block space and sound money. It's like, oh no, like Solana's trajectory obviously is like we want to become the operating system for like this kind of like Web3 environment. And it's like, oh yeah, like that makes a lot of sense, you know. What do you this is a good question, like Ryan and Bison, what do you think will and could bring mass adoption to Solana NFT gaming projects? Like, I think so. This is kind of like we kind of got off play to earn, but I have like some theses around play to earn that may have been invalidated by now with Axie Infinity going to shit. But like I think the idea of playing a game to earn money is like an easy gateway into that. The problem is designing a system that's not a Ponzi is incredibly difficult for that system, right? But like that's what I think about a lot for Shin Sengoku is like, or if you can create like an anti-Ponzi where people at the top are buying token from other people, then it's like, how does that work? Can that be sustained? Probably not, like all these things. But I think Solana NFT gaming in general, like is the mobile, like if once the mobile SDK comes out and you have these native mobile apps that are running with token, and like I onboarded a few of my friends that have never really played blockchain games. Like I got our math people who are not crypto people at all. They log into Shin Sengoku every day to play Shin Sengoku.
That's amazing.
And I have like my old business partner. I should give him a shout out. Like my business partner Aldrine. He's like a phenomenal ukulele player. He did like a bunch of work for Bob's Burgers. Their opening theme songs and stuff. Like he's like the Lauren Bouchard's private ukulele teacher. So like he has a bunch of connections there. But he wasn't like a crypto person either. And then he's playing Shin Sengoku every single day as well. And so like
starts, man.
You can get people into it if you can provide like a product, and also like once you get to mobile, like it's like, oh, you just play on your phone. Like that's gonna be a huge unlock too.
Yeah, I think. Oh, it's gonna be it. Okay, so what you were saying, Bolt, is yes, mobile is going to be a huge space for us because it's something that we are already the furthest developed on mobile, and then we're going to be even further. We're going to be eons beyond anything else. So I think that's going to be a huge step forward, because think about it, how many people have a mobile versus like a computer, like especially around the world too. Like in the States, it's like, yeah, I have like one of everything. I got a tablet, I got a computer, but that's not the case everywhere. So mobile is definitely going to be the big thing. I also think scalability is going to be a huge, like right now, capping our collection size at 4,000, at 5,000, at 8,000, whatever it is, makes sense for our total addressable market, right? But eventually we are going to be scaling into bigger audience sizes. So it's how do we figure that out to where it's scalable, it's accessible for a lot of people, but also provides that fun. It provides that ability to earn. And I think that's another, when I say play to earn, and I did it for this video, right? I said, like, Shin Sengoku, an idle PvP soul play to earn game that is solely for optimization, guys. Like,
right.
I think a more like appropriate term is like play to game and you can earn. Like, you know what I mean? Like it should be about the experience first. And I think when you have that experience, you then look at a supply and demand chart, right? Like there's a certain supply once you get items, right? Like there's only so many items that are in the game, and there's enough people that want to buy the item. And I think the demand pressure is what you're really trying to scale for, because it's like, I have such a fun game experience that I want to buy this item at a certain price, even with all the supply zone, right? So all these people, because if you just focus on the play to earn, all you're going to be doing is putting supply pressure on whatever items you install or whatever kind of currency you install. So it's really finding that those demand factors, those demand drivers for the game.
Yeah, it's a like I gave a talk for the state of Hawaii about NFTs, because like we had like a really successful NFT launch come out of Hawaii called FOMO Mofos on Ethereum. It's really a well-known artist in Hawaii named Jasper Wong did a project. But a lot of people in Hawaii still don't really know what NFTs are. So the state, we have this thing called the HTDC, which is like a state-run like educational board for technology and startups and stuff. So they taught me to do like a webinar for like legislatures and stuff. But I talked about like play to earn quite a bit, and I think it's probably one of the most interesting spaces, because in terms of like a global economy and what it could potentially be is interesting. But just I always like to state the fact no one's figured it out yet. Like nobody has freaking cracked that nut, like okay, how do you create a game ecosystem that can sustain itself over a long run? But it's not like it hasn't happened in the past, right? Like RuneScape is a 20-year-old game that people still play today, even lesser numbers, but they still have like this functioning black market economy where people buy gold from other players and people.
World of Warcraft was the same way for sure.
Right?
Yeah, like I bought a shit ton of gold back when I was in like high school. I was like, okay,
it's a time arbitrage. Like if you can get time arbitrage down, and you can have people buy into that system of time arbitrage, and you can theoretically have like a sustainable play to earn game. It's just that it has to be like an enjoyable experience at the other end for people to buy the token, right? If people are only playing a game to sell token, then there's not enough demand to buy the token, essentially.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a tough nut to crack, and I see a lot of games doing that. The tricky thing is, how do you get it so, again, you're competing against like these AAA titles and these game studios that investing billions of dollars into some games. How do you get it so people spend time on your little Web3 blockchain game versus that? And that's like another nut that you have to crack as well. So two big things, like you got to make it a fun enough game where people are actually buying token, and then also you got to compete for attention against bigger things. But I'm a big fan of, like, I talk about it in some of the other things, like the innovator's dilemma, the model of disruption that comes from that book and that ideas. I think it's 100% true, where if you can provide the needs for people in a better way than the current offerings do, then you can have a chance to establish a foothold and telescope up through technology. So I think that's what I'm trying to do with Shin Sengoku, is where, like, we can provide like a product that solves the needs of people better than some of the more polished games out there, in terms of, like, providing utility for other projects, providing utility for tokens, providing utility for other things. And then we can kind of telescope up, like, we can establish basically a foothold outside, independent of AAA games, outside of indie games, outside of this. It's not competing with those things. We're in our own little pocket and then expanding from there. Right. So I think that's the game plan that I have for Shin Sengoku, and it's like basically the game plan for the Nintendo Wii and the Nintendo DS and what Yellowtail Wine and Uber, and it's kind of like those kind of things, right? Like it's a disruptive business model, and it works because the people that are owning the majority of the market share don't think it's worthwhile to dabble in this space. But there is a consumer base that is there that needs something, and we can provide that thing better than Call of Duty can provide it, or Valorant, or anything like that.
Yeah. 110%. No, and it sounds like the audience is on board too, which I know most of them, Flanders and Bolt and Viggy, everybody gets it too. It's like, okay, I'm glad we're all on the same page. Not everybody is, though, and a lot of people, they buy into a thing thinking solely to be, I call them value leeches, right? Like going into an ecosystem and they're solely trying to extrapolate value from whatever you're creating, not trying to participate in the ecosystem. They're doing nothing for the community. They're just trying to get in there, flip money, sell assets. And I don't think that's a terrible thing to go about, but like, we're such an infantile industry, or at such an infantile point of developing Web3 games, that we need more people to like get out of the project who are value leeches and like come into the project and give ideas or give feedback and give criticism, because they're also product testers at the same time. You know what I mean?
And I feel like that's kind of a responsibility for the game designer too, right? Like for us, we had a bunch of issues with that as well. And it's kind of like, okay, how do you put in systems in place where, like, the game, the core PvP game was kind of designed around the idea of like, how do you not reward value leeches? Like, how do you get it so they really don't see much upside? And we've had to kind of continuously tweak to kind of maintain with that thesis, or not thesis, but like plan of like, let's not reward people that are trying to sell token or whatever. Like, selling token is not bad, but let's not reward people that are doing nothing for the game, not reinvesting. Make it so they have to reinvest to get token to sell, or make it so they have to reinvest to get things to sell. And that's always a big challenge, like designing for human behavior, because people have different goals and needs, and it's none of their goals and needs are inherently wrong. It's just that the game needs to be set in a way where those things are balanced, and that's a big challenge. Like, I'm sure I talked to Stud. I haven't talked to him. Well, I talked to him a bunch during the last couple of weeks because all the shit that was going on. But prior to that, like, the marketplace thing was a big thing that they're working on. But when that came out, I think that's been a big challenge for them, and it's something that they need to figure out. Like, how do you sort value? And everybody has these varied interests of what they wanted to do and what they plan to do with these things, and now they have to kind of reconcile things with that.
Well, it brings up a good point too, and I'll just touch on it right now, because I know we do have some friends in the chat as well. They're pretty loyal viewers, and I appreciate you guys. But one of the things that I think we didn't realize the marketplace did was, it's something we're trying to explore again. Is one of my favorite times was going into the Discord trade chat and like trying to find a trade partner, and like it wasn't scalable. You can't like always find the middleman mod who will go in and broker a deal for you. But God, was it fun, dude? Like working out with deals, and like we are basically leaving like Yelp reviews. Yeah, people like set up shops where they have different texts, and it's like, you know, it's like Flanders, like the Axe Emporium or something like that, and then, you know, you got different sorts of items in there, and it was just fun. And I think with the marketplace, like it is really cool. It's great to have that in game. I think it's awesome to see that feat done, but it's also like it killed a little bit of the social value, which right now in our like very infantile state of NFT gaming, like that was a really fun part, man. That was a really fun part.
Like you basically went like in RuneScape. And not that I played RuneScape, but I watched a lot of videos about RuneScape designing Shin Sengoku. It's like you see people like going and talking to other players, right? Like I have this, you know, buy my gold, buy my things, and that's essentially what that P2P Discord marketplace was. It's like, hey, buy my this. Okay, I'll buy you that. And when you have like a grand exchange thing where you can just put things and sell things, it kind of becomes more like a AMM kind of like, you know, liquidity pool kind of system where you lose that a little bit. I never thought about that, but yeah, that's a good point.
Well, and like I said, there's times for it. I think there's certain items that it really works really well for, but like especially some of those more unique items, especially now that we have a bunch of tiers of items, it's like, yo, some people like finding the person who's like solely focused on just building, like crafting out a bunch of T9 survival guides or something. Like that's the person I need. Maybe they have like a scaled economy, like they only focus their people on building out survival guides. I don't know. It was just like it was really fun, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the marketplace. I actually think it works out really well, and it's really interesting to see how people value stuff in game now. Like now that there is a velocity of money with the marketplace, where if I just want to buy something, like I can go ahead and do that. It's fascinating to watch, but at the same time, I do miss that social aspect. So it's trying to find that harmony.
When he first told me about marketplaces, like, oh, that'd be cool. Like you have like your little, because you at the time the camps was still in the play, right? Like you're gonna have like these camp things. It's like you could set up like a little marketplace on your camp, and people could come to your camp and like, oh, okay, let's see what this guy has, and then go to the next one and see, oh, let's see what this guy. Like that's what I kind of thought it was gonna be when he first started talking about it. And he's like, oh no, it's gonna be like the grand exchange. It's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
It's funny you say that because I, you know, a little bit of alpha for the people who are still here, but that is definitely something that we are planning to have come. But it's going to be I can't give away too much, but we will have that sort of interaction and experience on land when we do drop it. So I
don't want to set up your shop. I just was imagining like, oh, you can set up your shop and run specials, and then you can kind of go into Discord and advertise like, hey, you're running a special at my shop, you know,
exactly.
And drive people to your shop, and you can kind of see how much money you made, you know, with your shop. And like, I just think that's pretty fun. Like, it's kind of like one of the funner things to do, right? Like the social aspect of these games is
it's
important.
A fun experience, man. Like that's what I did. I don't know, dude. There's so many game instances of doing that. Like, you know, people in Club Penguin. My brother was more of a Club Penguin player, but I used to. And I'm not sure how many people know about this, but Coca-Cola used to have something called Coke Music. It was back when I was late elementary school, and it was kind of like The Sims almost, but it was massively multiplayer. You go into people's rooms and stuff like that. And how you got points was you bought Coke. And I'm like, you got like a little reward label underneath your Coke cap right there.
Oh,
and you got to redeem it, and you would like save up those points in order to buy stuff and like make your room super cool. And that's what I'm like, that's what we need to get back to that. And like people would sell their items.
That I'm talking about, where it's like, no, just going back to what I was talking about before, like gamifying commerce is like where NFTs come in, right? Like, so you bought those Coca-Colas just to get that cap so you could plug it into game. Like imagine the world where you're buying a Coca-Cola, you get the cap, and that's the NFT. You scan it with your thing, the QR code, and that turns into your NFT in the game. And then you're, oh fuck, I got to get more of these Coca-Cola so I can load up my guy in the game, and right, and then that game has a leaderboard that eventually unlocks like the Coca-Cola fighter jet, like the Pepsi ran a thing with the fighter jets like in the 90s. I know you're probably too young to remember, but they gave away like the top prize was like a fighter jet if you collected a bunch of Pepsi things, and they had to kind of figure out a way to give a guy a fighter jet or something like that. But that's, you know, like the natural progression of these NFT games is like, to me, gamified commerce, you know?
Yeah, dude. It's, I mean, the possibilities are endless, and like just creating that fun social interaction where, I mean, you can exchange something as little as like a, you know, a small in-game asset or something as big as like actual monetary value. And I'm going to have like a drone deliver it one day, you know, or like that's awesome. I think that will restore my faith in NFTs, and I think we are heading that way. I should say we are heading that way. I'm not like completely bearish on NFTs, but I am. I think I'm just eager for, how fast NFTs move. I'm like, can we get to the next step already? You know what I mean? Like, can we get to that? I just want to see what the next 6 months looks like already. So
yeah, I think the bear market's going to be a big part of that. Like we're clearing out a bunch of the moon boys. Not that there's anything wrong with moon boys, but like people that were just in it for like low effort value harvesting from NFT projects and dumping on people. They're going to be gone when you can't do that as easily anymore. Like, because it's going to get harder and harder. And basically, the people that are going to be good at it are the people that are like Wall Street sharks now that are good at trading stocks anyway. Like they can read charts and do things, and so you'll have that. And then you'll just have people like the ideal situation is like everybody in NFT land then becomes a value investor, and then they go into projects that they feel are providing value in some way, and then that's how the next big idea on the internet comes out of of that bear market. Like web in 2002 and 3 was really fun. It's everybody said the internet was dead, like after 1999. Like the internet crashed in 2001. 9/11 happened. Everybody said the internet was dead. I was still using the internet like crazy and like finding all these communities, and like the Flash development was a big thing back then. So I was all into Flash development, building games and trying to do Flash websites and shit. And like to me, the internet was like well alive, but for all the investors, internet was dead. And I think that's kind of where we're heading with NFTs.
That turning point.
Yeah. Right. Like, and investors, quote unquote investors, gonna be like, oh, it's dead. Like NFTs are dead. And meanwhile, there's gonna be tons of people like fucking with NFTs and doing all kind of cool and crazy shit that eventually becomes HTML5, JavaScript, in-game native apps and things. And like the whole API thing came out of Web 2, which is like huge. And so it's gonna be a fun time. Like I'm looking forward to it. I just want to make sure, like the one thing that concerns me is like how big is that base community? Like going back to that, like if that base community is big enough to sustain projects in it, like good projects in it, then we're gonna be fine. If that base community is only like 5,000 people, we're fucked. Like everybody's fucked.
Right.
So it's like it just needs to be like 500,000, 1 million people, 2 million, something around that range with like similar to Web 2. Because Web 2, like the total amount of people on the internet in Web 2, like we didn't even have Wi-Fi, like you had to be plugged into the wall. So it's like you think about that, like how much that unlocked. We didn't have mobile apps or mobile phones with internet, like you had Palm Pilots and stuff, which you had to like connect somehow. So it was a different world. So I feel like we have a good shot to have like a few million people when the bear market is the bottoming out. And with that few million people, we're gonna the projects that are still alive are gonna be pumping out some really, really interesting stuff.
For sure. I'm excited for it. No, this is so much better than I survived the 2017, 2018 bear market of crypto. And that was so much more tough. Like people are talking about like, oh, NFT Twitter's toxic and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, you did not see 2018 Twitter was the worst place on earth. It was hell or high waters, and it was just 2 years of misery, sideways bullshit. So but the people who stayed building in there are the ones that have a huge following in crypto. And I think that's the hope right here, is like the people who are like, yo, we're still here for the long haul. We still have a way to sustain ourselves. We're going to make it. Those are going to be the projects that I'm like, we're doing cool stuff over here.
Like I talked to my old business partners, like the one mistake, because we both got into crypto heavy in 2017, 18, like the one mistake we made was we stopped paying attention once the market kind of crashed. And it's like, if we had just paid attention, we would have caught the DeFi summer of 2020, 21. We would have been really early on NFTs. We would have minted probably like Bored Apes, or would have minted, like those things. And then instead, like we weren't paying attention. I mean, I minted VFriends and it's like, okay, cool. I got into VFriend and I didn't think about it. And again, Bored Apes was like a month later. I was looking at cool cats, like maybe I should buy a cool cat. I'll buy a Doge Pound instead. Like that kind of area. So it's like we told, basically both of us said like, and I heard the same thing in 2018. It's like people said the same thing. Like the one mistake I made was in 2012. I stopped paying attention. I'm not going to make the same mistake again. I'm going to keep buying and doing things. And so like that's kind of the way I think about it now. It's like the one mistake that I'm not going to repeat is I'm not going to give up or stop paying attention, because it's like, especially with NFTs now. Like it's so obvious to me that NFTs are the unlock for the mass adoption. Like it's so like night and day clear to me. So it's like obviously I'm gonna stick around and keep building something because it's cool.
For sure. Yeah, I'm so excited. But Ryan, this has been so much fun, dude. I could talk to you like all day long about where we're going and future of the project, future of NFTs, all that good stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start signing off. Is there anything you want people to know about Shin Sengoku, what your guys' vision is for the next year? Because I guarantee you're still going to be around, and like what people should be excited for in the future.
Yeah, I think, like the big things that we're I'm just reading some of the comments. So the big things that we're focusing on now is like we finally can start executing on a roadmap. So the things on a roadmap, the big things that I wanted to kind of experiment and play with were like the crossover events. Now we're bringing in other projects in for the events, and they're playing with their NFTs in our game. That's really exciting to me. These other game modes that we can kind of start to develop ideas around gamifying commerce and these kind of ideas, and rewarding our holders in external ways outside of NFT land. If NFT land goes to shit and nobody wants NFTs, like the NFT can still be valuable in other ways. Exploring those things with our networks that we have, like some of the guys on our team, like they don't talk about their networks, but they have extensive business networks as well. So tapping into those kind of things, and basically just that, like experimenting with how far we can push NFT tech into like doing these kind of cool things with metadata beyond just, this kind of stuff, but also like creating a real business out of this. And that has I talk about this a lot, like the alignment of incentives where holders are aligned with creators, and it's a mutually beneficial thing where it's not like a business customer relationship. It's more like a holder business relationship, and evolving into that stage of the Shin Sengoku project is going to be really fun and interesting for me too, because that's kind of what I love to do. Like I tell everybody, like sometimes I joke like I should have just stayed semi-retired, but it's like I can't, because it's like that's the building something from nothing to taking it to something that people care about is like what gets me off. Like I can't, like my wife hates it because she's like, oh God, he's gonna go again. Like she could see the crazy look in my eyes, like oh God, he's gonna go again. Like we got 2 kids now. Like why the fuck is he gonna do this again? Because he told me he's just gonna be dad for a year or two, and now he's gonna do this stupid project. But it just like that's the most exciting thing for me. So I'm just looking forward to doing that and having people see like, oh shit, like yeah, they had a plan and they did it. So it's gonna be fun.
I feel bad. Yeah, dude. Well, first off, your wife is a trooper. Your kids are awesome.
She's been with me for 20 years, so she knows. Dude,
congrats.
She's been with me from like when I was floundering. Like I also talk about, I have a lot of sympathy for like a lot of these young founders, and then they kind of rug or run away. Because it's a shitload of pressure to like run a business or a project, right? Like you're a young guy yourself, and you're very successful, I'm sure, in real estate. But like for a lot of people that they don't have belief in themselves, or like they don't know if they're going to be able to make it. Like yeah, I can understand rugging and running away, because I probably, if I was launching projects in my 20s, like I would probably do the same thing. But luckily, I figured it out in my mid 20s. Like if you just keep going, shit happens and you figure it out and you can make it work. But yeah, man, like it's like I just kind of started talking about the sock pass thing, because it's like I have empathy for those guys too. Like it's fucking hard. Like the kind of shit that you hear from your holders, like I screenshot them just so I can look at them sometimes. So give me motivation to get the project going again.
They're relics to hold on to for motivation. So I can't tell you how many shit coins I have just saved on my ledger, just in my Ethereum address, where I'm like, this is a reminder to like, be smart about your decisions and really follow like projects are going to make it. Because hindsight 2020, I knew 90% of those shit coins I was invested in were not going to make it, and they didn't.
Everybody thinks they're going to be smart enough to sell before it happens, right? Like they're right. Smart. Yeah, I'll get out before it happens.
It's my post-it note every time I open up the ledger. I'm like, yeah, this is my post-it note. Remember to be smarter. I
got a bunch of request network tokens here.
Oh man, there's some bad ones. Well, dude, Ryan, it was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for the time. Seriously, I'm gonna let you get back to your family. I'm gonna let you get back to your busy life. This has been awesome. I'm gonna make sure everybody sees this. Especially, I'm actually surprised a lot of people watch the restreams, and I get it. A lot of people don't have like, this is a global phenomenon that we're in, so a lot of people can't catch it at certain times. But this has been awesome. Thank you guys for all tuning in. And Ryan, I wish you the best of luck. I'm going to still, always keep my shins. I'm probably going to go buy like 5 more after this. And I appreciate you, man. Thank you for being an awesome part of this ecosystem.
Thank you for having me. And good luck to you on your YouTube channel and all your things that you got going to. Hopefully one day you build that real estate project and we can buy some of those NFTs.
Dude, it would be amazing. And I that is a long-term goal. But for right now, we got to get some more infrastructure in place. So, well, hey man, it was seriously such a pleasure. Thank you so much, and I will catch you later. We'll do an update stream or something like that.
Dude,
in like 6
anytime
months.
you want me on, I'll make some time.
Yeah,
No
we'll figure it out. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, and I will catch you guys later. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Well, thanks, Ryan, so much. I'm gonna go ahead and hit end. I'm gonna hit the lo-fi button, and then we're out, guys. So good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you guys are. I'll see you on the next video.